All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the stream. Sorry for the delay. I had a vet appointment for the cat at 9:30 and I was like, well, I'll probably be home, within an hour. And that was not true because I ended up doing like 45 minutes of waiting total. So anyway, we're here. We're ready to go. I actually don't have any idea what we're going to work on today because I literally just got home and haven't had any time to think about what we're doing. But let's see. We got a couple of things. Yeah, there's a couple of things that I want to fix in here. So we're probably just going to go through this to-do list and just kind of find things to work on. We're kind of done with the new content for a while, at least. Like that's not going to be the primary focus of the streams now. For now, obviously there will be more content happening on the streams at some point in the future, but I do need to get back to working on just more like the technical aspects of the game, making sure everything feels good and whatnot. But in any case, before I get into it, I want to remind everyone that Alchemortis is available for wishlisting. It's a dark fantasy roguelite inventory management auto battler where you can create your own builds using alchemy. So if that sounds interesting, definitely check out the Steam page. You could also support the game on Patreon. If you subscribe at any tier, you will get Patreon exclusive content, but also the top tier here, the sponsor tier. If you subscribe to this for at least 1 month, you get an Alchemortis Steam key, so you will not need to buy the game when the game comes out on Steam. And I'm gonna actually move my camera here. Is that better? And your name will be listed in the in-game Alchemortis credits. So if that sounds good to you, I would definitely appreciate that. I am entirely self-funded, so every bit helps. And you can also support by purchasing one of the Udemy courses. Everything's linked below, so I hope you all check that out. And you can also support by joining the Discord, liking the video, all that good stuff. All right. Hello, Clicker Tail. Welcome back. Good to see you. Abo, welcome. Good to see you again. Ninja Link, good morning, good morning. Snup Bill with the IDR 10,000. Thank you very much. That's always very generous with the message. Yummers, welcome back, Snup Bill. Hello, Junie. Welcome. Emerson, good morning to you. Look at that, Yummers. Look at all those Yummers. Malicious Rabbit, welcome back. What is Yummers? That is just something that Snup Bill has been saying for many months now. It's time for that dang old game dev yet once again. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. The music is amazing. We're trying to Godot C# right now. Awesome. Hope you like it. Made it for a change. Hello, Drufus Games. Welcome. All right, so let's take a look at what we got going on. I spent a good chunk of yesterday trying to get the combat more balanced. So I think I mentioned that yesterday as well, but I changed how the enemy board placement or enemy board generation algorithm works, but I've also generally shrunk the size of the boards that you'll encounter as well. And the goal is not to make it so much of just like just like there's tons of cards and they're all a chore to read. Obviously, like I don't really expect players to understand or read the synergies of every encounter, but the boards are generally smaller. And so even if we go to the last enemy here, like it's a large board, but I think it tends to be smaller than before. And even like you get into the last region here, like this board is not that big, right? It's not that complicated. So I have yet to play test this, but generally the way that it works, so I did two things. I made the enemy board generation maximize synergies more, which essentially packs more power into a tighter space. And I needed to do that because, I can't just, in the previous system, I couldn't just shrink the board size. That would have dramatically affected the difficulty of the game, right? Because the difficulty was kind of like very tightly related to how big the enemy boards were. So I shrank down the board size, but then I optimized. I made the enemy boards more likely to use optimal synergies so that they get more power out of the limited space. So anyway, like I said, I have yet to play test that, but it's looking good. Just like from me running my tests, I have a simulation that I can run of like 5,000 different enemy boards being generated, and I could track all the statistics for everything that gets placed. And then of course just clicking around here and just kind of like analyzing this like based on what I know about the game, if that's going to be good. There are still some boards that generate quite a bit of very bursty damage, so there's kind of like balancing these enemy boards is kind of like, it's a very difficult thing to do because you have the balance of like making sure that the items have proper synergies, but then there just may be like outlier items that's either scaled too hard when their tier gets upgraded or their abilities are just too powerful. And so I may have to like, if there's a couple of items that are just increasing the burstiness of the board, I may just have to go in and tweak their abilities. But anyway, that's what I was working on yesterday off of stream. Like I said, I still have yet to playtest that, but I kind of just want to get a big bulk of changes done and then I'll playtest it. So yeah. Hello, Kelso. YouTube is censoring me again. Hello, welcome. FXL Mine, welcome. Please, what is the music you are playing right now? I mean, it's just some like random royalty-free. If you look at, I'll put it in chat. It's a YouTube channel called The Relaxed Movement. I'll put it in chat there. But it's just some royalty-free lo-fi kind of esque music. That's it. Oh, really? Which algorithm is that? It's wave function collapse. It's wave function collapse. Hello, Ollie. Welcome. Good to see you again. Okay, so there's a couple of things I want to do here. Actually, this one is done. I did add a new item. Let's see. Add item. Corrupted staff. So I added this corrupted staff. It's called Yin Sol. And basically, the feast item, which was an enemy item, had this cleanse exhaust ability. But I realized the enemies don't have any like exhaust. Like there was no way to make that synergize with anything. So I just took that off of the feast and I moved it onto this item and made it innate. So this is how you can cleanse exhaust, or it's a way that you can cleanse exhaust. And then if I add item feast now just does healing based on the items that have damage abilities. So yeah, that's something that I did last night as well. What else? You're welcome, Abo. So yeah, let's figure out what we could do here. Translate artifact addendums. That is a thing that I definitely need to do. Investigate why legendary infusion altar gains 2 empty ability slots. Sorry, like I said, I haven't really planned what I want to work on today. Let's move this over there. I'm gonna move this to the backlog. So I'm just trying to shrink down the to-do list to something that the stuff that I actually want to do. So that would be a good one. Translation. I do want to fix this bug. Investigate why legendary infusion altar gains 2 empty ability slots. So let me go to my project here. Debug. Let's get the infusion altar and lead ingot. and let's give that a shot. Okay, so if I put this in here with that. Yeah, so that's gaining 2 ability slots. Why is that gaining 2 ability slots? Copies the heal abilities of allied items. Does it work if I add a skeleton mage here? All right, let's take a look at the alchemy input config then. Added legendary ability slots. 1 plus, oh, this is just wrong. Okay. Right, so it's adding a number of ability slots equal to, okay, that makes sense. Why am I adding ability slots to legendary items? Let's just add just, I guess. That feels kind of weird to me, but I guess it makes sense to add ability slots to legendary items. I guess it was just kind of confusing to me. Maybe it's okay. Input card cell count divided by 3. Do I want to do that? Oh, you know what I may do as well? So legendary items, I think they won't, I think they'll retain the corrupted ability. So here's what I might do. Make legendary items cleanse. Here's what I might do instead of adding ability slots. Make legendary items cleanse all corrupted abilities and immune to corruption. I think I'm going to do that. Yeah, let's actually do that. So, because I still feel like the legendary abilities, so the legendary items get a legendary ability, but they're still susceptible to the corrupted abilities. So I think what I'll do is maybe instead of adding ability slots, I'll just make it so that these become guaranteed not to have any corruptions. So that way you can safely use them in alchemy and then they become like a safe target for basically all the abilities you want to put on them. So I think I'm going to do that. Is the meat stick that deals 999 damage still in the game? Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay, so let's do this. And remove bonus ability slots or legendary items. Yes, the ability slot was purposely reduced. So the way that the ability slot system works is that there is a default ability slot count based on the item size, but that default count can be overridden in the positive or the negative direction. So for example, the aberration, which has a low chance of dropping during alchemy, that has like 5 or 6 abilities, which means that it has 5 or 6 ability slots naturally. So it's a 1-by-1 item that gets like all these ability slots, right? But then on the flip side, there are things like the infusion altar, which I'm explicitly setting to only have 1 ability slot. And so like I have control over like the individual ability slots on an item, even though there's like a default. So if I'm not specifying, what the ability slots are, then it defaults to a certain calculation. And so the reason for that is like I have a little bit more control over the power of an item. So I think, for example, the infusion altar, that's a relatively powerful ability. And so instead of counteracting that by making the ability less powerful, I counteracted it by making it harder to get more like additional abilities on this thing, right? Are negative abilities back? Yes, they are. What are we working on today? We're going to be doing a hodgepodge of different things. Welcome, Wooius. Also welcome, RN Genesis. Good to see you both. So yeah, anyway, I think added legendary ability slots. Let's get rid of this. Okay, so get randomized output is new legendary. Wait, how does it actually add positive abilities to add? Uh-oh. Did I do this wrong? Where's the negative abilities? Corrupted abilities, okay. Ability pool. Okay, so I think I will need to put some data in here. Corruption chance, get corruption chance. Okay. Okay, so there's a couple of things that I need to do here. Let me just check my base card real quick. Add composed abilities. So this is sorting them. So it's legendary first, then innate, then corrupted, and then everything else. So I think I can do the filter at this point, actually, because... yeah, I can do the filter at this point. Let me think about this. Yeah, the negative abilities are back, but they're a little bit different. So the negative abilities, the way it works now is that you have a chance of gaining a corrupted ability on an item. And that chance is based on how few items are in the alchemy. So if you've only got a handful of items, you'll have a higher corruption chance. And the corrupted abilities also work differently now that there's the ability slot system. So previously with the negative abilities, there was no ability slot system. But now that there's an ability slot system, which controls basically how many abilities can exist on an item, what happens when you gain a corrupted ability is it basically just locks down an ability slot. So it just kind of like, it gives you a negative ability, but also it consumes a slot. And so, and those are the same as innate abilities, meaning that you can't remove them by normal means. Like you can't just pass a bunch of corrupted abilities onto a different item. So it's kind of like a semi-permanent negative that happens on the item. And so I kind of like that because I think first of all, it incentivizes using multiple items in alchemy, so you can get that corruption chance down to 0. But also, you know, it adds a little bit of risk reward. Like if you want to do a more targeted alchemy with just 2 items, you're gonna have to take the risk of gaining a corrupted item. So yeah, I think it's working well. But we're gonna make legendaries not have this. So let's do this. Let's do bool is legendary. Corruption chance is equal to is legendary 0. Okay. And then, so those are our corrupted abilities. Ability pool. We need to remove... we need to remove the corrupted abilities as well. So we'll just do this in here. We'll just do new base abilities is equal to, let's do this. If is legendary, new base abilities is equal to new base abilities dot where ability not x dot is negative ability. Okay. I think that should be the only two changes that I need to do, and then I just need to do this. So we have is new legendary, so that's a specific thing. So we want to check if the card is already legendary or if it's going to be turned into a, so this is new legendary means that it's going to become legendary. And then it could already be legendary where you're using it. So we're just going to pass in whether it's becoming a legendary or whether it's new legendary into this. If it's legendary, we're going to filter out any existing corrupted abilities. And then we're also going to force the corruption chance to 0. So it's not possible for it to gain any new corrupted abilities. I think that should be it. And we can get rid of this added legendary ability slots. I have an error here. Oh. Get output data for card. Let's just do card.is legendary. Alchemy output data. What is this? Where is this used? Get tooltip data. Okay. Let's do public required bool is actually, let's do this. We'll keep the corruption chance the same. We'll do if not is legendary and... So we're going to keep that corruption chance, that calculated corruption chance, so we can pass it along in this corruption chance here. We're going to do is corruption is protected. We'll just do is immune to corruption here. Get init. Okay, so now tooltip data. We're going to need to return this. We'll just return the is legendary out of here, I guess. Or actually, we'll just do the same thing. Public required int is immune, not int, bool. Did I do int for the other one? Is my mind not working today? No, I'm fine. Okay. So is immune to corruption is equal to is legendary. Okay, so then in the alchemy manager here, the tooltip data. Yes, we're good. Okay, so then we got this get tooltip data. That goes to the alchemy container. If data.corruption chance is greater than 0. So we're going to do this. If data.is immune to corruption. I'm trying to think of actually how I want to do this. Let's just do this. If data.corruption chance is greater than 0, if data.is immune to corruption, this item is immune to corruption. Now this show positive info, yeah. Con string immune to corruption. Okay, that'll work. This return here, no. All right, I think that will work. Let's give it a whirl. Hello, if it's not a secret, how much time do you spend on the game each day on average? I would say like 6 to 8 hours, although I've been spending more time recently because of the content that I've been doing. I've probably been doing, I would say for the past couple weeks on average, maybe 8 hours, with some days being a little bit less and some days being, you know, upwards of 10 or 11. I work on it throughout the day though. Usually I'll do, you know, I'll do some work before the stream sometimes, and then I'll do the work on the stream, and then I'll do some afternoon work. I may take a break for a little bit, and then I will work in the evenings for several hours. Okay, so anyway, let's give this a whirl. Let's see how this works. Welcome back, Fortune Sort, by the way. So I'm going to need to test this with some other items. So let's do a skeleton warrior. Add item, skeleton, mage. Okay, so if I drag this over, this item has a 44% chance to gain a corrupted ability. So we got 1 corruption, 2 corruptions. Apply 2 bleed to self. Okay. So now if I make this guy legendary, oh, that tooltip should probably, well, that's fine. Right, so that cleanse to the corruption, and then if I take him out and put this guy here, put this guy here. So this should say, this item has a 44% chance to gain a corrupted ability, and this one should say, this item is immune to corruption, yeah. So now what I can do is I should be able to just get that fire right on that skeleton warrior there without having any risk of corruption whatsoever. Yeah, so I got the fire on the skeleton. That feels much better to me. Yeah. So legendary items are essentially just immune to the corruption mechanic. Some of these legendary abilities are going to be very, very powerful. I need to revisit some of those. Hello, Alien Archer. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you. We can delete this item. All right. Cool. Make legendary abilities. Make legendary cards cleanse corruption and immune to corruption. I think that feels much better. And we'll mark that as done. Translate artifact addendums. I think I should probably handle that one because it's not working. Use constants for keywords and item descriptions. That's done. What are we working on today? Hello, Celestial Beagle. I'm just getting through this to-do list here, just trying to do stuff. We're going to work on some translation stuff, translate artifact addendums. So what that means is essentially, if I go to my project settings, enable test player artifacts, I need to do Iron Gauntlet. And then what? Let's also just put the cloak in there. So the problem with these ones, with the translation system has made it so that this is not properly showing the additional text. So for example, this Iron Gauntlet is supposed to show the current damage. So Iron Gauntlet. So there's this get a description addendum. It's not showing the current damage here. So I actually need to restructure how this works Oh yeah, to do figure out addendums. So previously the way that this was working is that this was concatenating those strings. But now it's just translating the normal description. So what I think I should do is I should do something like what I've done for the ability system. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a public record addendum config, I guess we could say. We're going to do public. I don't know. I think the translation key can be one thing that's a little bit weird here is that this base artifact does not have a reference to the artifact resource that it's attached to. Which kind of makes this a little bit awkward. I may need to actually change this to be something like the card constructors. So I have this giant dictionary which basically maps an ID to the card's constructor. So it's just an anonymous function that accepts the resource, the custom definition resource, then it creates a new instance of that specific card class with that resource. And so this is the way that I map essentially the item IDs to which class belongs to those IDs, or which class belongs to that card. I don't have something similar for the base artifact. And the reason why I might want to do that is because, like I said, I currently don't have a reference to the artifact resource that is associated with this base artifact. It's actually inverted for some reason. The artifact resource here has a reference to the base artifact. And this artifact resource is used all across the place. I think what I would have to do is, instead of using artifact resource everywhere, I think I would probably need to use the base artifact class. Does this need to be ref counted? Oh man, do I want to do this now? Let's see. Is it a pain to set up Godot with C#? No, not at all. It's pretty easy, actually. I mean, if you don't know what you're doing, then maybe it could be a little bit confusing getting like all the C# dependencies, like all installed and everything. But no, Godot works just fine. There's nothing. You just download the .NET version of Godot, and then you're good to go. Sorry, I'm just trying to, I mean, I want to fix this addendum thing, but I think it would be a good idea Well, I could probably fix this actually. Let me just work with what I have for now. Might as well just follow the pattern that I've established here. I'll just do this for now. Okay, so we've got the addendum ID. So basically what this would become then is this would be the var base description. Let's do translated description. And then we'll do translated addendum is equal to, here's what I'm going to do. We've got this addendum config. Description template. And then we're going to do public object description template parameter func. This needs to be a func object. Okay. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to do a public virtual addendum config. Addendum is not equal to null. Description utils format description. Template parameters func. Okay. String is null or empty. Translated description. Otherwise translated description. Translated addendum. All right. So hopefully that works. And then I'm going to get rid of this get description addendum here. We should make this protected, I suppose. Protected virtual addendum. Actually, maybe this doesn't, I don't think this needs to be this doesn't need to be a function. We can just make it a protected member. Get rid of this get description addendum here. Okay, I think that will work. So then in here now, what I need to do is I need to say addendum is equal to new addendum config. Current damage 0, that returns current damage. Okay, so we get rid of this. Alrighty. Why am I not seeing any of the other ones? Cloak. Oh, get description addendum. So we just have 2 more to do. So we're going to do this doesn't have a constructor, so that's good. Current charges. This needs to be 1. I actually don't think this is going to work. I need to double escape that for reasons that have to do with the translation file that I'm using. Oh, this is an interesting one. Is used. I need to add an extra thing to my addendum config here. Public func bool should display func. We'll set that to true by default. So for the immortality elixir, we're going to say addendum is equal to new addendum config. We want this, which can actually just be that. We don't need anything in the description template parameters func, and then we should display func is used. And we can get rid of this. Now in the base artifact, I'm going to need to use that as well. Addendum is not equal to null. And addendum.should display func. So let's just shorten this. Addendum question mark should display func is equal to true. Okay. I remember you saying that your next project will be with GDScript. You still feel that way? I don't know, probably not, but we'll see. We'll see how GDScript is. We'll see how GDScript is in the future because they're adding more features to it, so we'll see. So export and onReady in C# is the same as in GDScript. Export is, yes, there is no onReady though. There is no onReady shorthand for C#. Because all the onReady does is it's just a nice syntactic sugary way of like doing something when the ready callback is being processed. But there's no such thing as doing that. I mean, yes, you can override the ready method like you would in GDScript and C#, but there's no like onReady annotation or anything like that. All right, so now I just need to update the translation generator. If artifact base artifact dot addenda. Oh, I am going to need to be able to read this. Let's just do public string addendum description template. We'll just return that out of there. And in here, addendum description template is not equal to null. Then we're going to do entries artifact description addendum translation key equals new PO entry. And then we're going to pass in the description template there. Okay. Well, let's run the translation tool and we will see if that adds all those new entries. And then we'll also be able to see if that artifact stuff. So artifact, description, cloak, addendum, current charges. It puts the /n literally in there. That's good. Exhausted, that needs to be capitalized. Current damage 0. Okay. So let's just do the immortality exister here. Elixir exister. Okay. Description keywords dot capitalize this one. Koroman? I don't know what that means. Sugary, why isn't sugar spelled sugar? Yeah, I don't know. Good question. Because we're particularly booming in the post-World War II era. All right, let's see. Exhausted. All right, there we go. Let's run the game and see how it looks. We should see those description addendums now. Current damage 0. Current charges. Combat victories needed. Okay. And we could do add item, add artifact, immortality, elixir. Let's see if that one works. Is there a combat I could lose to? This is not valid. I don't know why that keeps doing that. Puts a windmill in the entire board for some reason. Okay, I died. This should say exhausted. Perfect. All right. Cool. All right, then. I think we can call that good. So, yeah. So that is done. So I do need to work on these things. This one is basically done. Okay, so a lot of these things are just bugs in here. Revisit legendary abilities, transition to run overview on boss defeat. So this one is a little bit, this one's a little bit tricky. So I have that end run screen, the run overview screen here. And this needs to go to this screen, or we need to go to this screen when the boss is defeated. But the problem is I don't want to automatically transition players to this screen on boss defeat because a lot of people want to see what their last combat log was. I guess I could bring the combat log into this screen somehow, but yeah, I really don't know. I really don't know what to do about that. Some things to think about for sure. There's a deck builder fest on Steam. Is there an auto battler fest coming up? And is there a way to find out when? Always curious if Steam devs get some kind of schedule. Yeah, so when you're a Steam partner and you've signed all the NDAs and agreements and stuff, yeah, you get a lot more information. So you get like a whole calendar of things that you can see coming up. But for obvious reasons, you know, we're not supposed to share when the various events are. But yeah, Steam definitely gives developers advanced notice of when certain events are happening so that you can prepare for them. Yeah. I don't really feel like working on any of these things. I mean, I do need to do this one, and I do need to do this one. Update LAM abilities. Let me write this down as a bug. Is a demo coming up? Yeah, there will be another playtest in the future. In the nearish future, for sure. So yeah, we're getting closer to the next playtest. I think basically I just need to get like all these to-do items done in this column, and then it will be ready for another test. But yeah, I'm kind of blocked on some of this stuff. Like, I don't know how to do some of this stuff and like the visual presentation, but I may just throw something together and see if people like it or not. Well, let's update the LAM abilities. I think I don't like how the LAM is working. It feels very weak for a 2x2 card, and also it's so niche that it's not creating a whole lot of variety. So let's take a look at the LAM abilities for context here. So deal 2 damage, deal 3x damage if there's an adjacent button. I don't like having specific card interactions. That's not something I'm doing anywhere else in the game. So yeah, I want to probably change that. And probably give it another ability as well, because it's a 2x2, but it only has one ability that's not super compelling. So yeah, I'm gonna update these abilities. So I don't know if I read that one, Jack, but you thought it was the Steam Deck, the Deck Builder Fest. So using the Steam API is just using their keywords in your scripts to align with Steam's functions and stuff, or how's it done? I mean, I use a Steam API wrapper for C#. So there's a Steam SDK, which you have to pull into your project. And you have to include the SDK binaries in your exported project, I believe. But since I'm using C#, there's like a wrapper around those Steam APIs that are C#ified so that I can use the C# API to call those things. But yeah, I don't really know how it works. I know that there's an SDK that you need to use, but I just use a third-party library to abstract away all the stuff. Okay, anyway, I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break, and when I come back, we'll update these LAM abilities. We'll try to think of something a little bit unique for this, if we can. But anyway, I'll be right back in 3 minutes, and we'll continue on. Okay, I'm back. I thought you had updated all of the 2x and 3x text pieces to be calculated values. Surprised to have seen that one in the lamb. Yeah, I think this might be like the one place where I missed it. But we're going to update it anyway, but I just had an idea. For boss transition, create art for path up mountain and transition to run end. So I think for my run end, that's not a bug. So because the run overview screen looks like this, where it looks kind of like you're up on a mountain or like a hill or something overlooking something, I think for the boss transition, maybe I'll just create like another little scene that looks like a path going up a mountain or something. And then you click that to go to the overview screen. That would be cool. Anyway, let's fix the lamb. So what do we want to do with the lamb here? Maybe we'll just make it deal damage based on alchemical. Let's just redo this entirely, I think. Int base damage is equal to 6. Var current damage is equal to base damage. Okay. Then we're going to do var query target provider is equal to query target provider dot create options. Okay, let's do query directions dot, or is equal to board inventory component dot query directions dot adjacent options dot tag filter is equal to card tag dot alchemical. Okay. And then we'll do var value scaler is equal to new value scaler, query target provider, value scaler. Let's do const int adjacent damage. It's equal to 2, maybe 1. All right. Value scaler, set multiplier. Current adjacent damage. I had a brain fart there. I was actually thinking too far ahead. I was thinking, okay, how am I going to actually do this damage ability? Because I think what I can do is I can do value scaler.set additional value to current damage. And I think what that will do is that will do the scaling with the multiplier and add the additional value onto that. So I can actually just accomplish this with just one dynamic magnitude ability, or dynamic damage, I guess. Dynamic magnitude ability. Value scaler, new damage, 0. Okay, and then we can return all of these things down here. Return this. Okay, compose damage, query target provider, dynamic damage, scaler is equal to get damage scaler. Then we'll do current adjacent damage is equal to scalar adjacent damage. Scalar base damage, set multiplier, set additional value. Okay. Okay, deal an additional 1 damage per query target provider dot to query string template force card plural, force card singular, true. This can be 2, I suppose. Might as well fix some language here as well. So this phalanx should be deal. This should be deal 0 damage. Deal an additional 1 damage per that. Okay. And then this would be current damage and current adjacent damage there. Alrighty. Okay, we can get rid of this old ability here. Alrighty. So that's building. We can rebuild the translations. That should update a bunch of places. Let's see. There's our translation. Okay, awesome. So we can just make sure that that works really quick. Hello, teacher. How do you generate naming convention for the items? I mean, there's a lot of them. The naming convention is basically just based on the item ID. And the item ID is just, yeah, it's just a unique word. So like all these cards have just like unique IDs. I'm assuming you're talking about the cards. I mean, the naming conventions, generally speaking, is just like, I just name things whatever makes sense. I try to be consistent with the language when things are related, but for the items specifically, yeah, it's all based on the ID, right? So like the base class is just the Pascal version of the ID. So lowercase lamb to uppercase lamb for that. And then when I'm doing like the translation keys, it's, you know, it's always card underscore and then the card ID and screaming snake case and then just some descriptor of what ability it's covering. But yeah, basically like every item has a unique ID that's basically powered by these files here. So this is the ultimate source of every item. The ID is just determined from the file name itself. And it's nice for a couple reasons. One, I can keep it readable so I can know like this is the corrosive here. And the ID is unique and that uniqueness is enforced because obviously you can't have two of the same file with the same name, right? So, so yeah, I don't know if that answers your question at all, but you would think Valve would have a smooth practical guide on how to include their Steam stuff. I mean, they have very comprehensive documentation. It's just like there are so many different engines and whatnot that it's like I don't know if it's feasible for Valve to tell you how to like do it in every single engine. Okay, so let me get an alchemical item. And then we'll just go to a combat real quick. So we update the lamb. All right, let's just see if this does 7 damage. It did 7 damage. Okay, good. Okay, update lamb ability. So now we need another ability for the lamb. Anyone have any ideas? I'm just looking through my idea list here, my ability ideas. Every time X is executed, reduce this items. I already did that one, so we can delete that. Hello, Kezer B. 3-stream streak. Awesome. Welcome. I'm talking about the actual names of each items because I'm having a hard time naming them and creating icons for it. Oh, yeah. Well, the other thing, too, is, like, I think it's a good idea. So, like, the ID of the item is one thing, but the actual name of the item is a different thing, right? So, like, those are not explicitly related to each other. Oftentimes, they do match, but, for example, if I look at my corrupted staff here, it's called a corrupted staff from the ID, but then its name is Yinsol, right? So like the ID is like not super important. The ID is just like what ties it into the entire system because items are fetched by ID quite constantly. It just needs to be something that's relatively descriptive of what the item is, something that's memorable, easy to understand when I'm looking at it. But that doesn't necessarily need to be like what it appears as in game, right? Like the text that is displayed to the player describing this item doesn't have to be related to the ID in any way. The ID just needs to be something, like I said, that's recognizable to me and that also stays consistent because like once I've got player save files where they're saying like, oh, there's a corrupted staff in the inventory, like I can't rename that item after release because it will break. It'll be looking for an ID that no longer exists. So these just need to be relatively stable and relatively descriptive, but I can change any of the text associated with them, no problem, right? So like, that's something that you can do as well. Cleanse debuffs, maybe? That could work, cleanse debuffs. How about gain 10 armor? This amount is reduced by 1 each execution. Gain 10 armor, this amount is reduced by 1 each execution. That's an interesting one. I mean, I like the cleanse debuffs. We already have a cleanse debuff item, but we don't have an armor that reduces over time. Let's do it. I'm going to reduce the number a little bit, but what? Generic execution count provider. Okay. Generic value provider int. This would be mathf.max of 0, current armor minus execution count provider. I need to define that first. Get value. I actually don't think I need that because I can do Let me think about this. I should probably name this correctly. It's called shield in the code, but it's called armor in the front end, in the player-facing version. Shield to apply provider. Okay. New dynamic magnitude ability. Shield to apply provider. New shield 0. So I should be able to do this. Abilities, dynamic shield, and then execution count provider, composed shield, scalar, get shield scalar, current armor, current shield is equal to scalar base shield tier. Okay. Apply 0 description keywords dot armor. Description keywords dot capitalize description keywords dot armor. This is so much more verbose, but I figured moving these into constants is probably a good idea. Okay, so armor applied is reduced by 1 each time this ability executes. Okay, so this would be current shield. No, not current shield. This would be shield to apply provider dot get value. And then we'll just do 1 here. All right, let's see if that works. Build the translations. We'll go into a, let me just do this real quick. We'll go back into the training dummy. Project. Training dummy on. All right, let's take a look. Hard lamb shield. I forgot to build the translations. Okay. Apply 8 armor. Armor applied is reduced by 1 each time this ability executes. Okay. So what I need to see is that it applies 8 armor first, and then the tooltip should show 7 after that. Okay, so it applied 8 and 7 now. And it should just keep going down. 4 armor, 3 armor, 2 armor, 1 armor, 0 armor. And now it's not going to apply any more armor because I'm capping that. Cool. And then when it resets, it'll reset that counter. So it's 8 armor. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Alrighty then. Let's see. Is there anything else? Update lamb abilities is done. Yeah, I think I'm gonna end the stream there. Sorry that the stream is a little bit short today, but I haven't eaten anything all day. This is usually where I hop off to eat lunch, so I'm gonna do that. So sorry again for the short stream, but you can blame the vet for keeping me waiting for much longer than I needed to. Can't believe it. Can't believe a doctor's office of any kind would keep me waiting. But anyway, despite the short stream, thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here. Again, you can wishlist Alchemortis on Steam. You can also join the Discord. All that stuff is linked below. Hope you all have a great day, and I will see you back here tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. All right? Okay, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.